HTTP response headers are the key value pairs that are sent by the server to the client. Generally, it includes the information about the response itself, indicating the type of the response and how it should be stored and managed in the client. Generally, these response headers are not visible to the end user, but intended only for the information exchange between the server and client. In this lecture, let us see what are the common response headers that you may encounter in general and how do you actually send response headers from the ASP.NET Core application. So in this application, I am trying to write context.response. This is the way how can you access the response object through the context object. There you have a property called headers. It is of collection type which implements iHeader dictionary. So it is fundamentally a dictionary, key value pairs. So you can add, remove or clear any kind of response headers through this collection. In this case, I would like to add response header. For example, my key. In place of my key, you can give any other key, whatever you want. Then equal to your own value. It should be of string type only. Oops, it is headers. So headers is a dictionary in which we are going to add a key value pair. When the browser actually sends a request, ASP.NET Core sends this key value pair as response header to the browser. Let's check it out. Run the application as usual. Press Ctrl+Shift+I to open up Developer Tools. Here, always click on Network tab to observe the response headers. Click on the refresh button one more time to send one new request. And there you click on the request URL, that is localhost. This is the actual URL to which we have sent a request. And under this response headers, now you can see a new key, that is my key and then my value. In general, the keys should not contain any space. It can be either lowercase or Pascal case, not a problem. But there are no restrictions on the value. The value may contain spaces. Of course, in our practical example, there is no use of writing this my key. It is just for a demonstration. But what are the commonly observable response headers? As you can see right now, there is something like date, server, and transfer encoding. There are few more commonly observable response headers. Let's have a look. So, one of the commonly observable response headers is the date, which indicates the date of the response, indicating when that response actually generated on the server. Notice, always remember, all these response headers are being sent from server to browser, just like answer to the question. Request is like a question asked by the browser to server, and response will be the answer from the server to browser. So, this is the date of the response. And after that, server indicates name of the server, which server software prepared the response. In our current case, we are using Kestrel as the server. The same has been added automatically over here. You can change it as per the requirement. I mean, just name. For example, I am writing another line of the code where server equal to your own value. For example, my server. Here, server is the predefined HTTP response header, and this is our own value. But it actually happens when you run the application. So open up the browser, Ctrl+Shift+I, and then make a request. Now, as you can see, instead of Kestrel, you can see our own value, that is my server. Okay, it just changes the name, but doesn't change any functionality. Still, we are using the Kestrel as the server. It is the default server in ASP.NET Core applications. Similarly, the content type response header indicates the MIME type of the response body. That means it indicates what type of response we are going to send from the server to the client. Suppose the server wants to say that, "Hey browser, I would like to send plain text as response." Then the content type will be assigned as text by plain in the response header. Similarly, if the server wants to send the response as HTML code, that means a web page, then the content type will be text by HTML. Similarly, for sending the JSON data, content type will be application by JSON. For XML data, content type will be application by XML. Generally, we use either of these in Web API controllers. So it is the topic for later section. As of now, in our case, there is no content type header in the response headers. You can add one. For example, you would like to add HTML content in your response. Let's say, for example, this will be your H1, that means heading 1 in HTML, where this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. And I want this to be heading level 2, H2. So this is a simple piece of the HTML code. I would like to inform to the browser that, "Hey browser, I am trying to give HTML content. So parse the HTML and display the same accordingly." So in order to mean this to the browser, you have to add a response header, that is content type, "Hey browser, I am trying to give text by HTML." Then this response header will be read by the browser and understand that, okay, this is the HTML code and it displays the same as headings. Check it out. See, the output appears as headings in line by line, in bold and larger size. You can see the same in the response headers. See, in the response headers, you can see the content type is now text by HTML. In case if you are sending the plain text, then it could be text by plain. So you have to assign the value to the content type header according to the type of the response we are going to provide for the client. Of course, in general, the content length property will be assigned automatically by the Kestrel server. It depends on the length of the response body. That indicates the number of bytes. So in most of the general scenarios, you need not set this manually. It will be set by the Kestrel automatically when you are using the views or JSON data. So presently ignore it. The cache control response header indicates how the browser should cache the response body in the memory. In case of cache control equal to no cache, then it indicates the browser that, "Hey browser, don't store this response body in the cache memory," means temporary memory. In case if the response body is cached by the browser, when making the request to the same URL next time, instead of freshly fetching the data, it can be easily retrieved from the cache memory itself. That means from the temporary memory in the browser. And in case if you want to enable the cache for this particular response, you will specify the number of seconds to cache. For example, you will say max age equal to 60. That indicates up to 60 seconds the response can be cached in the browser memory. So within that 60 seconds, if the browser wishes to send one more request to the same URL, it need not download the response body one more time freshly. It can be easily fetched from the cache memory. Anyways, you will apply this caching practically later when we try to apply the caching in controllers in later sections. Similarly, later when we try to create the cookies, we will use the set cookie response header. It enables the browser to store a cookie value in the browser memory itself. Means the servers can send the cookies to the browser. So the cookies are stored in the browser itself. We will use that cookies later in this course. Similarly, for CORS, that is cross-origin resource sharing, access control allow origin header can be used. At this moment, it is out of context, so don't get confused right now. And while redirection from one URL to another URL, we use the location header. We will practically use that when we are redirecting from one action method to another action method in controllers section. Okay, overall, these are the important response headers that can be observable in general in most of the cases. If you can follow the below link, you can find more response headers from the MDN documents. Okay, overall, this is the way how can you write and read the response headers. You will send the response headers in this way, and that are read by the browsers when we run the application. This is how does it work.